name is Dr. Chinny. I am an associate professor in enterprise and corporate development. And the title of my presentation is Promoting a Practice of Team Integration in Construction Projects. So, in the next few minutes, I'm going to be discussing the essence or the role of team integration. Okay, so as a way of context, and I'm guessing as most people would know, any construction project is made up of a variety or a number of what you might call project participants, including the client or the paying client. So, which means that the construction projects would usually involve a number of stages, like the concept stage, the design stage, the bidding stage, and then it goes on and on. Now, these different stages in a construction project suggest that there's a relationship that exists between different individuals, different participants, depending on the stage of the project. This is to say that the outcome of a particular project phase will have a direct effect on the next or the succeeding phase. So this draws some form of context or rationale behind my presentation. Okay, to be a bit more specific, what I plan to do through my presentation, which is based on a study that I carried out, is to encourage and facilitate project team integration. To do this, my presentation will demonstrate the impact an integrated project team has on the satisfaction level of the team, as well as the satisfaction of the different individuals or participants within the project team. So to speak, the integrated project team offers a platform for all the participants or members of a particular phase of a project to have the same capacity, the ability to make contributions to that particular phase of the project team. So what I've done with this slide is to reinforce my earlier comments on the essence of the integrated project team. And of course, to shed a bit more light on specifics of individuals that make up a particular project team. Okay, as shown on this slide, I've mentioned individuals or participants like the main client, the project owner, whoever that you may consider that is paying for the project. You've got the project manager, the main contractor, engineers, subcontractors, and so on. So, this demonstrates the variety or the mix of individuals that come together to execute a particular project in the context of construction. Therefore, I aim to discuss the impact that the integrated project team has on what the different participants consider as their satisfaction parameters or satisfaction attributes. As you may have picked up, for the purpose of this study, on the context of my study, satisfaction is measured in terms of satisfaction attributes. And what I've done for my study is to contextualize or to synthesize these attributes into four key categories. They include cost-related satisfaction attributes, quality-related satisfaction attributes, safety-related satisfaction attributes, safety and environment-related satisfaction attributes, and then the time-related satisfaction attributes. So I have grouped these four categories of satisfaction attributes into what I call the CQST module. Now, what I have on the right-hand side is an overview of specifics in terms of what a particular project participant would consider as what they will require as far as their satisfaction is concerned. For example, with respect to cost, a particular project participant could say, they want that flexibility, or a paying client could say an opportunity to offer alternatives. So that will be a satisfaction attribute that is connected to cost. Now, when it comes to quality, a particular participant may say they need less generation of waste. So that is a quality related satisfaction attribute, and so on. So having an idea of what I mean by the different specifics or the different attributes that relate to these four categories, would help us gain some understanding on what I measured for the purpose of my study. So again, what I am testing is whether an integration between the different participants of a particular construction project team has an effect on the satisfaction of not just the client, but also the satisfaction of other project participants. Okay, so moving on to test whether the integrated project team has some impact on the satisfaction of the client and other project participants. I took into consideration a number of steps to do this. One was I started off by allocating values to those identified satisfaction attributes. So for example, someone gives me a line of text, low waste, is allocating some form of value to that. And then the next thing I did was to highlight the satisfaction attributes that every participant represented in the project, in the construction project team, indicate as being their most critical. For example, if you come to the architect, what would an architect in a particular construction project team consider as being the most critical satisfaction attribute or most critical satisfaction attributes as far as they are concerned? And the third thing I did in terms of the steps towards measuring the impact of the integrated project team is to identify how the integrated project team impacts on satisfaction. Right. In terms of the first step, which is to allocate values to these satisfaction attributes of every project participant. And in allocating these values, the intention is to verify the importance of each of the satisfaction attributes for each of the project participants. So to do this, of course, was to administer a survey. So a questionnaire was adopted where 30 respondents um, um, filled in the questionnaire, and they allocated values to those different satisfaction attributes. So the participants were asked to rank the satisfaction attributes based on a ranking scale, the Likert scale, where 5 represented strongly agree and 1 represented strongly disagree. Now, something to mention is that prior to disseminating the questionnaire and collecting data, all ethical procedures were observed. And of course, every respondents or participants for the project were confidentiality were assured, and of course consent was obtained prior to collecting data. So having now allocated values to the satisfaction attributes, the next step was to highlight the satisfaction attributes that every project participant in a particular construction project team indicates as being the most critical for them. Okay, so the essence of this is to also know that the participants in one project stage could still be involved in a succeeding project stage. A typical example would be maybe the project manager is right at the concept stage, but they could still come back, in the bidding stage. In fact, the project manager is pretty much sure at different stages of the project. So, which means that a particular satisfaction attribute required by one participant could still be required by another participant, because you have a participant in one stage coming back in another stage. And of course, what someone requires, if I want the project to be completed on time as a project participant, someone else would also want the project to be completed on time. Okay, so just to note that there would be cases of where we had satisfaction attributes overlap, where a particular attribute required by an architect may still well be required by an engineer, for example. Okay, so the results show that all the project participants besides the main client perceive satisfaction as being an essential requirement for the successful delivery of any project. So as far as satisfaction is concerned, this is not just the paying client thing. Every participant in the project team does consider satisfaction as being essential. So in general, over 50% of the participants that form part of this study strongly agree that all the listed attributes are required for their satisfaction. So to shed some light on how I highlighted the satisfaction attributes of every participant represented in a particular project team as being critical, how did I work this out? I used the multi-attribute approach. So in using this, I use this to compute three fundamental terms, which include the importance index of the satisfaction attributes, the relative importance index, and finally the satisfaction scores. So for me to compute the satisfaction scores, I needed to compute the importance index and the relative importance index. So what the slide showcases are the formulae I use for computing the importance index first for each satisfaction attribute. Secondly, the relative importance index, and then the satisfaction score. So this satisfaction score provided an indication of the higher a particular satisfaction score indicates that that is the one that is considered most critical by a particular project participant. So what this slide shows is an example of the satisfaction scores, the computer satisfaction scores of the satisfaction attributes. Okay, so remember that the satisfaction scores are based on the importance index values and the relative importance index values. Okay, so we're now in the third step. So the first step was we started off with allocating values to those satisfaction attributes through the questionnaire or the survey that we conducted. And then secondly, we generated the satisfaction scores for the different attributes using the multi-attribute analysis, where we had the importance index, the relative importance index values, and then the satisfaction scores. And then thirdly, now is now find out whether the integrated project team does have an impact on satisfaction. Okay, so what this slide shows, particularly on the right hand side, is a visual representation of a particular project team. So you've got the client and you've got the different participants and how they relate to each other in a particular project team. So keeping the thought of that visual representation in mind, what we sought to do was to analyze or to test whether integration between the project team or the integrated project team, whether it has an effect on the satisfaction of the client and the different project participants. Okay, so we're analyzing the essence of the integrated project team. And to do this, I had to adopt the concepts of the probability laws and Boolean expression laws, and of course, the regression statistical test. And I will provide specifics on my following slides on how I adopted these different concepts. Okay, so what I've done with this slide is to bring back that visual representation of the integrated project team. Okay, so just to remind us of that visual representation of the integrated project team. So looking at this tree structure, mathematically, the integrated project team is represented as this. Okay, so we're going to move to the next where we adopted the probability laws and the Boolean expressions. Okay, so again, I've just simply brought back what I had on the previous slide in terms of the mathematical representation of the tree structure of the integrated project team. Okay, so that's what I have on this left hand side. And then on the right hand side, this is where I have applied the Boolean law expression. Okay, so the mathematical expressions now becomes this. So where you have the sign, it becomes a dot, and then where you have the union sign, it becomes the plus sign mathematically. Okay. Okay, bringing back the what I had in the previous slide again, the Boolean where I apply the Boolean law expression, and then it gave rise to the mathematical expressions that we have on the left hand side. Now I now subsequently apply the probability laws. Okay, so where the Boolean expressions became what I have on the right hand side. I'll give us a moment to digest, what I've got on the slide. Okay. After the computations, applying the Boolean law expressions and the probability laws, as well as the regression test analysis, results from the integrated team or integrated project team analysis indicate that there is 30% chance that the client will be satisfied by the project being completed on time. Okay, so we've ticked as far as integration is concerned, when the team becomes really integrated, there is 30% chance that the client will certainly be satisfied because the project will be completed on time. The results also show that if the importance index for some of the attributes are randomly reduced. So let's say, for example, after we computed the importance index values, the relative importance index values, and of course the satisfaction score, I tweak it a bit. Let's say, for example, someone said they strongly agree a 5, and I change it to a 4, just an agree. If this is where I randomly reduced those values, okay, that is lower than what is required by the project participants. The quantitative evaluation revealed that the chances of completing the project on time as required by the client is reduced as a consequence of that. So where the satisfaction scores are lower, it does have a direct knock-on negative effect on the satisfaction of the client. Okay, now considering different sections of the integrated project team, a number of things that is similar to what I've just said were also observed. Okay, so if I take the project manager who sits at the top of the tree, the analysis show that where the importance indices for the participants, for example, the main contractor, the subcontractor, or the supplier, if the importance indices for these participants for their satisfaction attributes are reduced, it invariably has a negative knock-on effect on the probability of satisfying the project manager. So which means it's not just the client we're talking about. We're also talking about the other individuals that make up the project team. Similarly, considering if we take the architect as being the top element, the results also reveal that the probability to satisfy the architect is significantly reduced if the importance indices of the satisfaction attributes for the designer and the engineer are reduced, because again they sit below. Okay, they report to the architect depending on the nature of the project. So if I reduce the importance indices of the satisfaction attributes of the designer and the engineer who report to the architect, it does have a knock-on negative effect on the satisfaction level of the architect. So to bring my presentation to a close, I've put together a number of concluding remarks. The integrated project team does have an impact on the satisfaction attributes that were used in the study and the analysis. Okay, the results show that the integrated project team has a significant impact on the cost-related attributes, the quality-related attributes, the satisfaction and environment-related attribute and the time-related attributes. So essentially what I'm saying is that the participants perceive that an integrated project team has the highest impact, has an impact on their satisfaction. More specifically, the participants perceive that the integrated project team has the highest impact on the safety and environment related attribute. Okay, this is shown by the mean value of 3.8 in comparison to the cost related attribute, the quality and the time related attribute. Nonetheless, the participants do agree that the integrated project team does have an impact on all four categories of their satisfaction. Okay, something else that the results show that is that the participants' perceptions indicate that an integration of the construction project team has the highest impact on the combination of the four. So where we bring all the four satisfaction attributes together. So which means an integration is not only beneficial in terms of the people, the participants, an integration of the different attributes is also beneficial. Is shown by the high mean score value of 4.0. A final point on the slide is that the analysis show that a high percentage impact of the integrated project team on the satisfaction attributes is something, so which means the integrated project team having a high impact on the satisfaction attribute is something that is generally perceived across the board by all the project participants. Thank you for listening, and I've got my contact details on the slide.